Hello everybody, welcome to another session at Adobe DITAWORLD 2024. My name is Leroy Steinbacher and I am a solution consultant at Adobe. And I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about DITA 2.0. Let's get it started. We'll take a look at what's new, where to find it, how to start using it, and also when to expect the official release. So today we're going to take a quick look at the DITA 2.0 release and some of the new features that will be available for authoring and managing content. I'll point you to some of the important resources that will be needed to get started, and then we'll also author and publish some sample content that demonstrates some of the new features. So the key takeaways are going to be a review of the technical specifications and other supporting documents that will help you get started. We'll reference the DITA 2.0 DTDs that you will need to enable your system to start using it. And then we'll also understand how to create actual content using DITA 2.0. So the good news is you don't need to wait to start using DITA 2.0 and get familiar with what's new. So what's new about DITA 2.0? Well, I was fortunate enough to be a recent member of the DITA Technical Committee. So I've actually had the firsthand opportunity to learn about some of the new features, some of the new functionality, some of the new elements. But there's also a lot of information online. There's a lot of articles. There's a lot of previous presentations about DITA 2.0. So this presentation today is not going to be exhaustive. I'm just going to kind of cover the highlights, but I want you to know that there's a lot of information that's available online to go into more details about not just what's new, but what you can do now to prepare for it, some of the rationale behind some of the changes, and then additional resources. A lot of that's available online. So these are the four things I want to cover today about what's new with DITA 2.0. One, it's not 100% backwards compatible, and we'll talk about the reasons why for that in a minute. There have been some specific changes to the specification, which is the document that supports the data model and the data model itself. There's some new elements and new features that we'll talk about, and then also there's some improved markup for existing features. So what do you mean? What do I mean by not 100% backwards compatible? So for the most part, DITA 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, the focus has been backwards compatible. So anything that was supported in 1.1 or 1.2 is continued to support in 1.3. But what DITA 2.0 is trying to do is it's still going to be somewhat compatible, right? I mean, a lot of your content is still going to work. There's just certain things that won't be supported moving forward. For example, the deprecated elements have been removed. Some of the more cumbersome, redundant, or seldomly used features have been removed. Some of the fixes that were some of the design mistakes that have been fixed are going to be updated. And then also the goal is to kind of reduce technical debt. So basically what that means is, if you don't do something right 100% the first time, you end up paying in the long run for not doing it right. And it's kind of hard to predict some of these things. When DITA first came out, you can design certain functionality with certain things in mind, but it's not until you actually use the tool and use it with a lot of content and a lot of context to understand, well, looking back, maybe this could have been done a little bit better. So, through the years of DITA usage has really come to some, better understanding of how it should work, better ways to improve things. And so that's the ultimate goal of DITA 2.0. With DITA 2.0, you should be able to, like I said, continue to use a lot of your content as is. But there may be some modifications that you might have to do to certain elements or certain attributes to take advantage of these new features. And in the end, you're going to end up cleaning your content and making it more portable and more scalable moving forward. So changes to the specification and the data model. So that's basically the specification is the description of DITA 2.0, And then also the data model is the structure, or the DTD, that contains the model for all the elements and attributes. So now moving forward, DITA 2.0 is going to be delivered in two packages. One would be the base, which is going to have your fundamental basic aspects of your DITA, and then the other package would be for technical content. So basically, it takes the base and it specializes it in a way to work with technical documents. So you have your topic types, like a task, reference, concept, and then all the other things that add the special language for creating technical documents. Those two will be separated. So what that does is it allows the DITA TC a little bit more flexibility for future releases. The two packages don't have to be released at once. You can release one independently. So that was the plan there. But you will have two different data models to download, and we'll take a look at that when we go to the demo. Also, it's not going to ship with XSD, no more XML schema definition. Instead, it's going to ship with the DTD, and then also something new called the RNG, or Relax NG document model. I'm not familiar with schemas or XSD or RNG. I've primarily always worked with DTDs, so that's still going to be available for 2.0. Some specializations have been pulled out of the standard. So that means like specializations like the DITA learning and training, specializations like DITA machinery task, and then some task prerequisites. Some of those things have been pulled out of the standard, but that doesn't mean they're not being supported. They're just not going to be developed along with the main DITA 2.0. They have been updated, so they will work with DITA 2.0. But so basically, the update of those specializations are going to be done by the community and outside of the DITA TC. And then also, there's also been some changes within the specification for to promote logical and consistent organization. So the specification is really meant to document the nuts and bolts of DITA, not necessarily like a how-to or a user guide. Although there are extensive amounts of examples. But I mean, a lot of the work that's been going on this year with the DITA Technical Committee is I was updating that specification and cleaning it up, similar to the content models, to making it more effective, more efficient, and removing some of the things that are no longer needed. So some of the new elements and features are kind of exciting. There's actually some new media elements for audio and video. Instead of just using the generic object element, DITA 2.0 will have an actual video element and an audio element, and that's going to be very similar to how HTML5 handles those type of media files. And we'll take a look at an example when we get into the demo feature. But it's going to allow you to do a lot of different things. It can give you the ability to have multiple audio or video file formats. For video, you can also include a link to, let's say, some transcripts. So you can have closed captioning transcript to the video along with the video. It gives you some more accessibility features. So you can have a description of what the video is. There'll be also maybe some text that'll show up for some reason if the video doesn't work. So it's really going to pull in a lot of those media functionality that already exists for HTML5 directly into DITA. There's also there's a new element called key text, and there's some rules for resolving variable text key references that are going to kind of simplify and streamline how that is handled a little bit better. And we'll take a look at some of this stuff. Some of the things that we're going to look at in the demo we can spend more time on, because when we publish, we'll actually see the results. Some of the other things like key text has not been implemented in the tool I'm going to use and the publishing, the DITA OT that I'm going to be using. So we'll point those things out. But right now, I'm not able to demonstrate the full functionality of some of these things like key text. Though another one for the maps, map resources, is something we'll be able to look at. And this is actually a nice way because it gives for a map, or especially a book map, a place to organize all your reference content, right? So what was been kind of awkward about a book map is there's really no place to put that. Where do you put a map ref to a key def, or where do you put your key def? So you either had to put it in like the front matter, or not in the first chapter, or you could put it in the chapter. It's just there wasn't a real intuitive, convenient place for that. And the map resources element handles that now. So you have a defined place within your maps and your book maps where you can put all your resources. There's also a new include element, and this one is kind of interesting. It gives you the ability to reference or pull in non-DITA content that's outside of your document. For example, let's say you have a README file that's included with your software package. You're able to actually include the text from that README right into where in place of where that element is. So it's a handy way of including text or code, or even like a CSV file within your document that's not necessarily content that's part of your DITA. It can be, for example, a JSON file. If you have a small JSON file, you can include that with a reference to the JSON file, and it'll give you the text within your published output. Something that's going to be very interesting and useful moving forward. And so some of the improved markup for existing features, there's a new way of handling the chunk attribute values. In the past, there's been a lot of different attribute values for chunk, which a lot of times have confused me a little bit. I've always been using chunk to content is something that I've always used. So not real familiar with all the other ones that were available, but from my understanding, they're a little bit kind of confusing and complex. Now it's going to be much simpler. It's going to be chunk equals combine, or chunk equals separate. We can take a quick look at that too in the demo. Another new feature is for the step elements. Previously, if you wanted to have a sub-step, then you would have a task, steps, step, and there was actually a sub-step element that you could put underneath it. But that kind of caused some problems, because let's say you wanted to reuse that sub-step in another task somewhere, right? There's no way to use that content at any different level of your task steps. So now what you're able to do, instead of having step, sub-step, you're actually going to have step, steps, and step. So you can actually nest the step element to give you your lower level of tasks, steps. And then you can reuse any of those steps at any level of any of your other tasks. So that's kind of a nice feature. There's also some improvements to the hazard statement. There's going to be support for itemized lists, and then also for multiple symbols within the hazard statement itself. This I remember actually quite a bit from when I was working as a tech writer and trying to do hazard statements, because a lot of the content we would get from the engineers would be, oh, we have to include all of these bullets within this hazard statement to make sure we're covering everything. And I just remember there was no natural way to put a bulleted list into a hazard statement. You had to kind of like cheat and put it in something that allowed it. But then it made it kind of difficult for processors to get the right output, to style those bullets the right way and maintain your fonts and such. So it was a little bit cumbersome. But now there's a new way that you can actually supporting list items in the right place. And then if you need to have different symbols for the different sections of your hazard statement, you can include more than just the standard one that you get for like warning, caution, or danger. And then finally, there's enhancements to the simple table element, where instead simple table, it was what it is. It's a very simple table. Now you're able to actually do a lot more with simple tables. And again, this is making it much more similar to HTML tables, where you can have a title, you'll be able to have a simple table, you'll be able to have a header, and then that actually helps with accessibility, because if your content in your header can be used to identify what's in the table, and then you're going to also be able to span cells. So let's say you want to span a couple rows, you can do that. Or let's say you want to span some content and some columns, you can do that as well in a much easier way than you currently do them within the CALS table model. And we'll take a look at an example of that as well. Okay, so maybe some of you are asking, where can I find DITA 2.0? Well, we're about to find out. Let me show you where you can get all the goods. And if you want to start up your screen capture utilities, that might be helpful for getting the codes for the links or the URLs for the links, so you can look them up later. So here's a link to the two working drafts of the specification. The one on the left is for the DITA 2.0 base, and then the link on the right is a specification for the DITA 2.0 technical content. So these are the specifications that will support the DTDs that we're also going to download in this next step here. So the DTD for the DITA 2.0 base release is available on GitHub. Here's the link as well for this one. This would be for the base, but then you will also need the DTD for technical content, and that is also on GitHub. And here's the URL for the DITA TechCom. And what you want to do when you get to this site is click on code, and then when you click on code over here on the right-hand side, there'll be a drop-down for code, and then you'll want to click on download the zip. So you'll be getting 2 zips for the base and the TechCom. And then finally, this is also a good reference for what DITA Open Toolkit is currently supporting for the DITA 2.0 preview. They'll give you a list of the different versions that are out there and the changes that have made for different versions to support different things. So what I can do now is then go to my browser so we can just kind of take a look at what those links go to. So these first 2 links here will go to the specification. This is for the base specification, the technical content specification, and when you download those, you'll get PDFs that look like this. So here's the specification for the base. Oh no, that's technical content. This is the base. And so these PDFs will give you the working drafts of these specifications with a lot of the details and a lot of the updates about what's new. Again, work in progress. There will be new versions of these documents released within the next year or so. Okay, and then finally, if we go back to the browser, to the DTD. So again, you click on code, just take you over here to code, and then this is where you can download this zip. So this would be one for the base, one for the TechCom, and then finally for the DITA Open Toolkit, here's the page that will take you to support for DITA 2.0. So what it'll do is give you a list of the different versions and the changes that were made for each version to support DITA 2.0 functionality. And just so you know, I tried to work with the DITA OT 4.0, but I believe it uses a new Java. And so I didn't want to update my Java, so I was limited to working with the 3.74, I believe is the last release that I was able to get going. So that's the one I'm going to use for the demo today, 3.7.4. And these are the use cases I'm going to take a look at. I'm going to look at the map resources element to see how it could be used to organize your resources for your map that aren't going to be part of your content but support your content. We'll look at the new chunk attribute, see how that works. We'll take a look at the improvements to task steps so we can kind of see how you can nest steps instead of using sub-steps. We'll look at the improvements to the hazard statement element. We'll also look at the improvements to the enhanced simple table. And then also I'm going to take a quick look at the video element. I didn't have this in here originally, but I was able to create a sample that worked. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. Okay, so I'm going to now go over to my web browser. And I am now looking at the landing page or the opening screen for Adobe Experience Manager. And today I'll be using AEM guides to demonstrate some of these new DITA 2.0 features. Just so you know, AEM guides is a DITA CCMS, a component content management system. That's an add-on program to AEM. So it lives within AEM. It shares the same repository assets as AEM, and you could also publish directly to AEM sites, which we'll be doing during this demo. So in the previous step, we looked at where we can download all of the specs and the DTDs. And the important thing here is really, if you want to start using DITA 2.0, you have to have your system know what DITA 2.0 is, what are the elements, what are the attributes, and so they can validate that content and understand that content in your editor. So the first thing you need to do is to upload the DTD to your system. So within AEM, before I go into Guides, which is the CCMS, I'm going to go to the Tools. And in my Tools section, I do have a Guides Tools. So if I click on Tools Guides, this is where I'm going to set up my profile, my DITA profiles. So if I click on this, it's going to give me a list of all the different profiles. Now, a DITA profile can be a combination of specific DTDs and a specific DITA Open Toolkit that you want to use. And so for this demo, I set up a profile for using DITA OT 3.7.4. So you can see here I made a specific path to a folder where I want to have this DITA OT process content from this folder. And then you can see I've also uploaded the DTDs. So when you download those, you're going to get a zip. You want to extract that zip, and then you want to upload the folder right above the catalog level. So then you can have a reference to the catalog for DITA 2.0 and the catalog for DITA 2.0 for the TechCom content type. There'll be two of these. You have to upload them both. And as long as it's pointing to the catalog for these two different DTDs, then the system will understand, those topics and those elements, and you shouldn't get any validation errors. And then also when I point to the same thing, I have a zip of the DITA Open Toolkit. I've got it uploaded. I put this under a 374 folder so I know what it is. And then I'm also integrating these same DITA 2.0 catalogs with my DITA OT. So I know everything is going to work and everything is going to be happy. So if I close this, now I go back to my landing page. Now I can click on Guides, and this will take me to the Guides interface. And what I have here is a repository view and some tools on the left-hand side. What I've done is I've made some shortcuts to take me to the content that I want to work with in two different folders, DITA 2.0 and then DITA OT 3.7.4. The reason why I did these in two different folders because I wanted to start out by seeing what's going to work in DITA 2.0 out of the box. Well, of course, I had to upload the DTDs, but I wanted to see, based on the out-of-the-box DITA Open Toolkit and publishing directly to sites, what content from DITA 2.0 is going to be supported. So I had left this folder for those samples. And then some of the samples that I tried to work in here and they published and they didn't come out as expected, then I actually moved that content over here to DITA OT 3.7.4. So I'm publishing directly to that open toolkit that supports more of the features of DITA 2.0. So what we can do is to take a look at some of these samples. Why don't we start out with this example topic? So if I go in here, I'm going to open up the DITA map for this topic. All these maps just have one file. And then I'm going to open up the topic for this file. And I've already created some content for the sake of time. I don't want to create everything from scratch. I wanted to create some content ahead of time, but then we can take a look at how this new element works. So example used to be available. But now it's available in a lot more places. So as an author, maybe I want to have a semantically tagged content as an example wherever it may occur. So if I want to have an example that comes after a paragraph, I can do that. I can even add a title to example, and then I can have example 1, example 2. So there's a lot of different areas where the example element is now allowed. And so what this does is this can now take when you process this content, you can actually have some generated text associated with it. So like, for example, when you publish a note or when you publish a hazard statement, you get a generated text that says that's what this content is. Same thing with example. You can have your processor say, oh, I'm going to have a little generated text. This is my example. And if you want to include a title, you can include that as well. And while we're at it, a bonus on this topic, I didn't mention it before, but something that you can now do is include image map within Fig. Previously, image map was actually specialized on Fig, so you couldn't have Fig. You couldn't have a Fig within a Fig, but now image map is specialized through using div. So now you can have a Fig, you can have an image within your Fig, and you can also have an image map within this figure element. So I just wanted to get a little bonus through this one in here as well. So if we want to look at the source, or actually let me just show you what the image map looks like. So if I collect this image, and I know this is in image map, I can open up this one tool that I have here within AEM guides that will give me the ability to add hot links to different areas of this image map if I want to have different spots that you click on to take you to different targets or different links. So, and then just to see the source, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see here where we have the example element as a peer to a paragraph. It can go a lot of different places. And then also here is our Fig. It contains a title and an image map within the image. And then this is an example of what your image map is going to look like. It's going to give you your coordinates for your hotspot and then the link to where that content will go. All right, so let's publish this. So if I go back to my map, I can now go to my output tab, and I'm going to publish this as an AEM site. So if we look at the output, do we have our examples, example titles? There's no special formatting for it because it doesn't know what it is yet because we haven't told the style sheet that we want to have maybe a different pre-generated text or we want to have a certain style for examples, but the content is coming through. And then also to the image map, this is not the hyperlinks aren't working here within sites, but if I publish this to HTML, that template's just not set up for processing the image map hyperlinks. But if we go directly to the HTML, I'm going to save this to my downloads. Open up my topic. Same thing here. You have example 1, example 2, and then we have a hotspot in our image that will actually take us to a site we looked at already for DITA 2.0 support from the DITA Open Toolkit. Okay, so that's the example tag. Moving right along, we can take a look at hazard statement. So I'll open up this map and this topic. I'm going to close a few of these things while we're going. Okay, so you can see here for hazard statement, I have a hazard statement in place, and these are the components of it. You have a message panel, you have a type of hazard, consequence, how to avoid. So, and you don't need to actually fill in all these things. These are just kind of placeholders so you know where certain things are. And then when you do hazard statements, you can consistently have these different pieces of information in this order. So what you're able to do now, since this is a hazard statement, the type will tell what kind it is. It's a notice. But now we're able to have, okay, for my type of hazard, I can have a couple of different types of hazards. I can have a symbol for each one of those type of hazards, fire hazard, camera alert, just kind of making these things up. And then this is the interesting thing here, how to avoid. Now within this how to avoid, you can actually put in, a list, a bulleted list, a numbered list. So you can actually have, a lot of times content will have not just one thing of how to avoid, but a lot of things you can do to avoid. So now a hazard statement supports that out of the box. So what I'm going to do now, again, publish this. I can publish this to sites. View output. So the content comes through. Of course, you can also set it up so it shows the content in a certain way. This is just out of the box style, but the nice thing is you can see that the symbols are coming through and the bulleted list is coming through. And you can see this is a type equals notice. So if this was a different type, you'd have different generated text for this. And of course, this can all be defined by your style sheets. Okay, moving right along. If we go back to favorites, simple table. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Open up the simple table sample. Okay, so I do have okay, this is reminding me that I don't want to save this in author. There's certain functionalities within your editor, whether it be, within AEM Guides or another tool where it wants things in certain places. So the one interesting thing that I found out when I was creating my titles, a simple table title, it wanted to force it into a table. So I had to make sure I was looking at source mode, so it didn't manipulate that. So I'm just going to not change anything at this point, so everything's left as is. But another bonus, recently there was a customer question about what kind of image types are supported within DITA and within guides. And the question was specifically about, does it support WebP image format, which is new to me. I was not familiar with it, but sure enough, I converted my ping to a WebP image file and pulled it into guides, pulled it into my topic, and published it, and so it is supported. So that's something interesting. I think that's a newer image file format that's supposed to be better within browsers. So that's that. But then here within my simple table, you can see I'm able to have a title, I'm able to have headings, and then I'm also able to do some spanning, which you're not able to see here because the editor doesn't know that DITA 2.0 allows styles. It doesn't support the style yet, but it can once the tool is set up to do that. But if I go into my source mode, you can see simple table. I can have my, you can see what it did. It took my title out of there by automatically. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to make sure that this title goes here where it belongs when I publish it. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now I won't go back to author mode so it doesn't move it around on me. And then you can see right here for this row, I've got columns span 3. So basically that row is spanning 3 columns. So in my next row down here, I'm going to have less columns. And for my final row here, I'm going to do a row span. So row span 2, and then that's going to now span that content across some columns and across rows. The preview is not going to show it, but if we go to, I don't want to go back to author mode. If we go to my map, and I'm going to just publish this one directly to HTML5. Save it. There we go. Extract all. So now if we are to make this a little bit smaller, you can see that tried to do something with it, but it's not doing the spanning as we expected it to within the default DITA Open Toolkit, which I believe on this system is 3.3.2. So if we go back now to, let me see if I made this also in simple table. Okay, so I also did this same topic in the DITA 374, OT 374. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up this one instead. And I'm going to publish directly from here without even opening it up. Same topic. I just had to move it to a different folder to have a different processor process it. So it's giving me a duplicate of that. If we go here, extract all. And we open up this topic. Okay, So if we take a look at this topic, you can see my file format is coming through. WebP file format. And then also now for the spanning, you can see this is also now correctly being laid out. So my second row spanned 3 columns, and then this row down here this column spanned 2 rows. So very simple markup to get different spanning where you need it. It's a little bit easier than the CALS tables, which is name end, name start. It kind of confusing. Gives you a lot more control of what you can do with simple tables. Okay, moving right along, we go back to guides, author. So did it simple table. So finally, let's look at steps. And I'm going to open up the map for steps. Look at the topic. Let's go back to author mode. Oh, this is the map. We want to look at the topic for steps. So this is a task topic. And so what you can see in here is I have steps. That's where I'm going to have all my steps for my procedure. And I have step 1. This is my main step 1. And so, but I wanted to have some sub-steps. So instead of having the sub-step element, I'm actually within the step element nesting steps. So I can have steps, steps with sub-steps, and I could probably nest it quite a ways, which would make for a very, I think, confusing procedure, but at least 1 or 2 levels would be okay. If I want to do the same thing down here for step 2, I can just simply copy and paste steps and nest that within my step. And so the nice thing is, let's say I wanted to have this as a common step, right? I wanted to make this reusable content, and I wanted it to be anywhere I want in the structure of my procedure. I'm able to give this an ID. I'm able to then conref that, and I'm not limited to conrefing at a sub-step. I can conref it at any level I want. So that's a nice feature for steps. So I'm going to save this. It's a new version. Go to my map. Now I want to publish this. I believe I can publish this to sites. View my output. Nested steps. So there we go here. This works great out of the box, even formats it properly. So this is my main step 1. This is my sub-step, although it is a nested step. Main step 2, sub-step A and B. Kind of nice feature. Okay, so finally, let's go back to my folders, favorites. So we've looked at example, hazard statement, simple table, and steps. Then the one thing I want to look at down here are we've looked at simple table down here. Chunk. Let's take a look at the chunk attribute. So if I go down to my chunk folder, I want to open up my chunk map, close some of the stuff that I don't need anymore. Okay, so I'm going to open up this map. So what you can see here is I have a map that's got several topic graphs. These are the samples we looked at already. But then I have a parent topic, which is the same as those steps. You have nested steps for a hierarchy. Same thing with topic graphs. You can have nested topic graphs to go from more general to more specific information. I always like to use a parent topic for when I'm chunking, so I know if I have to combine or the other option is separate. I have everything nested underneath my parent topic. So this is my parent topic chunk, but now instead of chunk to content, it's the new value is combine. Okay, so what it's going to do is instead of publishing to each topic to its own page, it'll now have all those topics on one page. So if I go over here to my output and I'm going to publish to HTML5, view output, save it to downloads, extract all. Okay, so now if I go into my HTML, I'm going to click right on the topic. You can see now I have all of these different topics, but they're now all chunked within one page. So you can see this is the content we looked at before. It also gives you, it looks like the HTML output will give you a mini TOC for all these. So these are all the topics that were chunked, but we're displaying them all within one page. And this is, commonly used when, you have some information, you want to be able to reuse it at a topic level because some pieces may be in multiple documents. But as an end user, you don't want them to have to click through each one of those topics. Maybe you want to have a lot of these available within one screen, so your user isn't clicking like crazy to go through each one of those reusable components. So chunking can be very helpful. Okay, so finally, let's go back to our samples. And within my folder here, we've looked at the last one. The last topic I want to look at is the video. So I'm going to double click on that map and open up that topic. Open up the topic. Okay, so you can see here, instead of the object tag, we actually have a tag for video. Same thing for audio, although I just put video in this section. And so the nice thing is you have a description tag. So you can have a description of this video for accessibility. For some reason, if the player or the video doesn't work, you've got some fallback text. And then you have these two new elements, media source and media track. The media source is actually going to point to a specific file format, and you can have multiple file formats. So if maybe some formats work better with different browsers, they're available. And then the media track is where you're able to have a reference to closed captioning or the text that goes along with the video. You can have that actually generated from the video, and then you can supply that text along with. And so if we want to look at the source just to see what that looks like, so here we have our media source format MP4, but it could be different other file types if needed. And then here this media track, and then this is where we could reference what's known as a VTT file that would have your subtitles or the text that goes along with your video. I didn't include a subtitle file with this, but I wanted to show it here just so you know it's available. If we go now to publish this output, I'm going to publish this to HTML5. Success. So if we view output, download it to my downloads, pull this up here, extract all. And if we open up the topic, you can see now we have our DITA 2.0 video topic, and the video controls are there, so we're able to play it. The one thing that I'm noticing is not working quite right is the sizing. I did put a width and height attribute, but it's not coming through. Understandable. We're at the early stages of this, so but at least we got the video to work with the video element, producing a video HTML element. Okay. Last things that I wanted to take a look at is if we go back to author mode, favorites, there's the ability now to have map resources in a different place within the map. So if we start here with the book map, just going to open this up, and I'm going to close this, and if we look at the map, you can see now what we have here, book map, book title, and then this didn't used to be available. It would either be, your references would be either in chapter 1 or front matter, someplace that didn't make sense, but it still worked. But now we have a dedicated area for map references. So let's say we want to have a reference to another map that handles like maybe key definitions. Here, this happens to be a map resource that handles subject scheme. A lot of the resources that are common to maps. Now you have a happy home within bookmap to reference those. So if we go to our author mode and we do a preview of this, you can see I have some key values. Hi guy, this is a PH element. And then within my content, then I'm able to, if I look at this map, add a PH that is a conkey ref, and then also a keyword. So this is a keyword. This is showing that some stuff that is compatible that you may have done. For example, if you're looking at, let me open this up. If you want to include, a key def that points to a keyword, you can still do it the same way that was done in the past, but I just wanted to show you here that now this is a new element for DITA 2.0. It's not going to process it yet because it hasn't been implemented into the tool or the DITA OT, but this is an easier way of handling some key text elements. But I wanted to show that this is the new way, this is the old way. The old way still works. The new way just happens to be a little bit more efficient and makes it easier for not just you as an author to come up with key text, but then the processors are also able to manage that a little bit better. Okay, so if we publish this, output HTML5. View output. Save. Extract all. So here's our book map. And then this is the content that I used for supporting keys. And then this is the content that I chunked. All right, and so finally then, if we go back to our folders, favorites, I also have an example of how that map resources also can work within or just a regular map. You can see map resources, referring to those same resources I used in the book map, but this is a map, so you can see it functions the same way. Okay, so I hope this was a good demo, actually showing how some of these DITA 2.0 elements and features will work. Not everything is supported yet, but it's on its way. And there's a lot of things you can try. There's probably a lot more than that I've demonstrated today. But this gives you an opportunity now to get started and getting familiar with some of these features, and then slowly preparing your content when it comes time to moving over to DITA 2.0. Okay, so in summary, today we looked at what's new with DITA 2.0 and where you can find it, where to download the resources that you need, and some information on how to get started. And then also we looked at in the demo how to actually use some of these new features and new elements within your editor, within your own application that you can set up to use the DITA 2.0 by downloading the resources, pointing to the right DTDs, and then also maybe uploading a newer version of the DITA Open Toolkit to support that output. The one question that I think may come up is, well, when can we expect the DITA 2.0 official release? And that's yet to be determined, but from the conversations that are taking place in the DITA Technical Committee, we're looking at a target date of sometime in 2025. So thank you again for your attention. If you have any further questions, just post them to the chat, and I and my colleagues will be happy to answer them. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks. Bye.